up, we skied Sunday and it was a lot of fun because it was 56 and sunny, but there's not much snow around.
No, I can imagine it has to have a lot of bare spots.
Yeah, I mean, we skied at Attitash. They're pretty conservative about, what they'll open up. So it's all man-made snow, but it's good cover.
Yeah, my daughter and my grandkids are all over at Wildcat for the most part.
Yeah. I mean, Wildcat, they'll open up anything. You
Yeah,
know, yeah, might have to jump from a patch of snow to another, but
really.
I think maybe they're a little more conservative now that Vail owns them, but yeah,
That's a tough
tradition.
one. I haven't skied in 10 years, but when I
Yeah,
did, I used to enjoy it, but it was a challenge.
yeah, that's part of the fun.
Because Bill called me the other day and he was up at the top of White Heat up at Sunday River.
Oh wow, yeah,
Have you skied that?
yeah. It's been a long time, but yeah, I have.
That's a challenge.
Yeah,
I wish these legs would support it.
yep. Just gotta get my cheat sheets open here.
Yeah.
Good evening, gentlemen.
Good evening, Mr. Barletta. I think I hear Mark.
I'm here, but these lights in back of me are, I can't adjust them.
It looks rather angelic.
Yeah, right, exactly. Yeah, I'm in my Boston studio, that's why.
Ah,
Okay.
Charlestown.
Yeah, I'm a townie, either in Nahant or here. Right? One or the
The
other.
label fits.
I'm still a townie. Okay. Yeah. Second, let's pull up the agenda here. Okay.
Your audio is a little muffled again,
Yeah.
Mark.
Is it? Okay. Is that better?
Yeah,
Is that
that's
better?
not bad.
Is
Yes.
that better?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. A little bit better.
Okay. Okay. All right. Hang on a second. We have a public hearing tonight, right, Tony?
Yes, for National Grid for a poll on Wood Road.
Okay, so let me open 6:30, correct?
Yep.
Okay, all members are in attendance. So I'll open the Board of Selectmen meeting for Wednesday, March 6th at 6:30 via Zoom. All members in attendance. Open comments, annual town elections. Saturday, April 27th, 2024. The polls open from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. Nomination papers are now available at the town clerk's office and due back by March 8th, 2024. For a list of open seats, visit town clerk's page on Nahant.org. So March 8th is this Friday. Time's running out. Annual town meeting, Saturday, May 18th at 12:30 p.m. Nahant Town Hall. Warrant with articles to be posted soon. The annual dog licenses are due back to town clerk by April 1st. A $20 late fee will be added for any licenses received after April 15th. Water and sewer bills and trash bills are due March 11th. Contact the treasurer collector office with any questions. With the parking ban is still in effect until March 20th from 12 a.m. to 6 p.m. No vehicles on the street. Contact the police station if there's any issues with this. Parking stickers, the 2024 parking stickers will be available for purchase at nahant.org starting May 15th. I'm sure my mother will be up getting, asking me to get online to get that right away. Each parking sticker is very important to her. Let's see, scholarships, Charles Kelly scholarship applications will be back by April 12th. Applications for more information about the local scholarship, visit the scholarship page at nahant.org. And finally, we have a vacancy, an open seat on the zoning board of appeals. Send letters of interest to Kay Taylor at nahant.org. With that, I'll turn it over to Josh or Gene. Any opening comments?
No, I did one.
No, I do have one question, mainly for Tony, I guess. Are there any other boards that have open seats, appointment boards?
I'm sure there are. I'd have to double check my list, but the ZBA, the other ones aren't, like for instance, like golf course committee. That one I think can go up to 9 members. There probably is 7 now. You know, so it's not as urgent, I would say, as the ZBA seat.
Yeah. All right. Thanks. Just wondering. No further comments.
Gene?
No, I'm good.
Okay, great. That brings us to a public hearing on National Grid. I'll entertain a motion to open this hearing.
I move that the Board of Selectmen open the public hearing with National Grid.
Second,
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussions on the motions? All in favor?
Gene Canty, aye.
Josh Andrew,
Mark Cullen, aye. Okay, Tony, we have a representative from National Grid joining us tonight.
I don't think so. I don't. Dan, do you know if anyone's coming from National Grid? Yeah, I don't think anybody's coming from National Grid tonight. Essentially, this is a new pole in the area of the Ward Road pump station, and it has to do with the upgrade project that we're doing at the pump station. So it's just a matter of process to go through the hearing.
Okay. We're gonna put up a new pole in that area, and they need to make sure there's an easement for that pole for future reference. So, well, that's routine, is that correct, Dan?
I'm sorry, what was that?
I said, this is a routine request from National Grid. They wanna apparently put up a new pole on Ward Road, and the reason that we have this hearing is because they need to establish an easement to place that pole. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's routine, like the cable contract hearing stuff. It's routine, so they can report to the state that they had a hearing, or at least a hearing was held in Nahant. So it's just routine.
And just it's at our request because it's related to the project.
Okay, sounds good. Do I hear a motion to approve this petition?
So moved. I do have one question. Maybe I'll wait till it's seconded.
second,
Okay. Hold on, Josh. Why don't we read the motion? You have the motion in front of you?
Yeah. I think I do. I have a lot of things open here, unfortunately. Yes, I do have the motion in front of me. Shall I? Yeah.
After you read it, then we'll second it, then we'll open up the discussion.
I seconded.
No, we gotta read the motion, sir.
Yeah, I guess we haven't read the motion yet. I move that the I move that the Board of Selectmen vote to approve the petition submitted by National Grid from the National Electric Company doing business as National Grid and Verizon New England, Inc. to locate poles, wires, fixtures, including the necessary sustaining and protecting fixtures along and across the following public way: Ward Road, National Grid to install one JO pole on Ward Road beginning at a point approximately 246 feet south of the center line of the intersection of Ward Road and Castle Way, and continuing approximately 10 feet in a west direction, period. National Grid is petitioning on behalf of the Nahant pump station to install a new JO pole number 3-5, where it is going to be fed to the new upgrade of the existing secondary underground service, parentheses, actually being fed from pole number 4, close parentheses. Hearing notice was published with due notice in a local newspaper, the Daily Item, and posted on the town website, nahant.org. End of motion.
Thank you, Josh. Do I have a second on that, Gene?
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Before I go to you, Josh or Jane, this is a public hearing, so I will ask if there's anybody in the public that wants to speak in favor of this or against it.
Hello?
Okay.
George?
Right?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Can you identify yourself and your address, please?
Sure, I will. Let me turn this up a little bit. George Mahoban, 64 Lawrence Road, Nahant.
Go ahead,
I just
Josh.
I just had a question. Is there any way you could do this underground? So you wouldn't be susceptible to all the heavy winds and so on and so forth that we get down there?
So
Like
there
that
is an
product?
there is an underground service on this side of the street. It's hard to explain without, looking at a map, but this is this pole is going to connect to an underground service.
Okay.
Yeah, so Josh, way I understand this pole is at the dead end of Ward Road down by the Roland pump station. There's a transformer there that you may be aware of. So I believe the pole will be up there and it will be a short distance from there. I think it said 200 something feet to the pump station itself.
Raphael, are you here from National Grid?
Yes, sir. I was having some trouble to get in. But yeah, I'm from National Grid. Thank you very much for asking.
Go ahead, Raphael.
I didn't hear so well. In this case, it's really simple. We're gonna be installing a new pole outside of the fence, but actually it's a property that it looks like a street, like a sidewalk, but it is actually a property from the city, from the town. So the contractor, they want to build a new, and it's the best option because to reuse the existing conduit is not gonna be a good idea because it's not gonna be enough. And the size of the cable that they are thinking to use is bigger than the one that is already installed. So we're gonna install a new pole a little bit outside. The last week I just staked the pole. So we are waiting on this, and after that the job can be scheduled. So it's gonna be a 45 feet pole in class 3.
And then it's underground from that pole to the building?
Yes, it's gonna be a siphon. It's gonna be 2 conduits, 2 4-inch conduit, PVC conduit. Yeah.
So this is to you, Raphael, I guess. Is the power supply all the way down that road to that pole? That's all above ground? And then
No.
from that pole it goes below ground?
Yes, all the power is goes overhead. There are overhead lines going to that pole, and from that pole, that dead end go up to a siphon and and go to the building. Actually, the building is fed in the same way. We are only in this case like moving the pole like approximately like 15 feet where it's actually. So in the actual pole is a risk because it has no anchor and guide. So the contractors told me that when it's actually it's like a really floating zone, a big floating zone, and also because of the winds, they told me that the pole in the transformers moves really in a risky way.
Yeah. So is there, will we wind up with the same total number of poles and we're just moving the pole?
Well, we will say we can say that we only like moving the pole, but I didn't propose the removal of the pole because in that pole they have also telecommunications systems. So in that case, we are not allowed to touch them. So if in the future, if you want to be removed, so that will be with the telco company. But we are only installing a pole between that last pole and the previous pole in that case.
Okay, so it's the addition of one pole, but the new pole will not have any of the telecommunication instruments on it. Like,
No, no, they can move it. And we also normally we do. In this case, we are doing a joint own petition. In this case, because obviously most of of our poles are joint own poles. So if at some point if they decide that they can use the same way or they want to change, we can remove that other pole because there's not gonna be any equipment on that pole from National Grid. We're gonna remove the lines from the new pole to the last pole.
So we can request that, Josh, after the new pole is installed, we can request that the telecom companies move their lines over to the new pole, and then once the old pole is empty,
yes,
it can be removed.
Yes.
Okay, so, all right, that makes sense. I believe Josh, I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, Tony, that this is fed from poles on Council Way, correct?
Yes.
Not on Ward Road. So it comes in from Council Way, I believe, to that
Yes.
pole. Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, I think it's important that Tony we coordinate with the other utilities to get their lines off the old pole and onto the new pole. Because we don't want to start, one of the things that drives me a little crazy in this town is, two poles attached together. Because National Grid is waiting for the other utilities to get their equipment off it and et cetera. So a better effort to coordinate those activities would be appreciated.
Yes, sir. If you want, I can share with you my contact information, and you can contact me whenever you want. And I'm not like used to deal with them, but if you ask me, I will be happy to do it and already know how will be the process. It not depends on us, but I think that we can put some pressure and I can ask who's the person in charge or who's the person of the engineering side of the telco company.
Yeah. Yeah, I usually deal with our government liaison for you guys, and she helps us with that. Typically, it's a double pole issue.
Yeah,
This
in this case,
but
in this case, it wouldn't be a double pole.
Right,
because
I know.
It's not gonna be close because it would be close. Actually, I wouldn't ask for a petition because it would be lower than 5 feet. Because it's higher than that, but I know what it means, and believe me, in other cities they always like you. Everybody hates that.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to double poles seeing everywhere. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, any further questions on this? First from the public, any further questions from the public? Okay, hearing none, Josh or James?
No, I have no. Good. Go
No,
ahead,
nothing
John.
for me. I guess I just wanted to make sure that the hearing Zoom number and the Board of Selectmen Zoom number are the same, right? Right? Yeah, okay.
Yes, I'm assuming they are.
I just wanted to make sure.
Okay.
Why,
sure.
are folks having trouble? Are you here?
Oh, no, I just noticed they're posted as separate meetings, so
Oh, yeah, the same Zoom, same.
yeah,
Zoom.
okay. Yeah, so I just, to make sure anybody that wanted to log
We
in
have
was
to-
able to, yeah.
Yeah, we have to
Yeah,
post them
okay.
separately because we have to post, this hearing has to be posted 7 days in advance. Where the selectmen meeting is only 48 hours, so we
Yeah.
post them twice.
Yeah, okay, just checking. That's all I had, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Seeing, hearing none, all in favor?
Gene Canty, aye.
Josh Antrim, aye.
Mark Cullen and I. So I have a motion to close the public hearing.
I move that the Board of Selectmen close the public hearing with National Grid.
Second,
Motion's been made and seconded. Further discussion? Seeing and hearing none, all in favor?
Gene Canty, aye.
Josh Antrim, aye.
Mark Cullen and I. That brings us to new business. We have a vote on some event requests for the Vietnam Veterans Day.
Thanks, Raphael. You're all set.
Thank you so much. I don't know if I can write my contact information here, or would you like maybe I can share with Vinny?
I'll connect with you. I'll
Okay.
find you.
Okay, excellent. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you so much
Raphael.
for your attention.
Thank you.
Raphael.
Thank you.
Have a great day. God bless you. Bye.
Bye-bye. Okay, we have a couple of motions on some event requests, one for the Vietnam War Veterans Day and the other for youth soccer. So I have a motion.
I move that the Board of Selectmen vote to approve the event request for the following. The National Vietnam War Veterans Day event on Friday, March 29th, 2024, starting at 11 a.m. at the Richard Davis Memorial Park. And Nahant Youth Soccer on Saturdays from April 18th, 2024 to June 27th, 2024 from 8:30 a.m. to 10 a.m. at Flash Road Park.
Seconded.
Motion's been made and seconded. Discussion on the motion. Okay.
None for me.
Okay, seeing, hearing none, all in favor?
Gene Canty, aye.
Josh Antrim, aye.
Mark Cullen and I. We have a vote to approve the police union contract. I know, Tony, this is something that you and the police union have been working on for a long time, so I'll entertain a motion to approve this contract.
I move that the Board of Selectmen vote to approve the contract between the Town of Nahant and the Nahant Police Union, MCOP Local 194, from July 1st, 2023 to June 30th, 2026.
Seconded.
Motion's made and seconded. Discussion, Tony?
Thank you. I want to thank Allison Nieto, our finance director and town accountant, for being part of this process with me and town council. And I also want to thank the police union and their representatives, Officer Leary, Monaco, and Sergeant Constantine, for their participation in the negotiation. I think both parties are very happy to be done with the negotiation process and happy with the final product. It represents a 2.5% increase, but we also stepped up some of our rates and of salary, stipends, incentives, and detail rates to be more competitive with our surrounding communities. while also staying within the town's financial ability to do so. The other, the constant theme in all of our meetings from the union and felt across the table from our perspective too, was putting together a contract that was going to incentivize officers to work in Nahant and to incentivize them to stay in Nahant, retain those employees, and give them the ability to grow here in our department. So those are elements that are featured in the agreement that I think benefits the type of community policing that we appreciate here in Nahant. So I just want to thank them for grinding out the process with us. Obviously, we're about a little bit over halfway into the current fiscal year, the first fiscal year of the agreement. So with your approval, we will be doing some retro pay calculations back to July 1st, and get their new rates going for the next payroll cycle.
Thank you, Tony, and I also want to thank you, the chief, working on behalf of the town and the police union, and working together in getting this done. I'm assuming that the terms and conditions of these contracts, from a financial point of view at least, are all accommodated in the Selectmen's budget for 2025.
Yes.
Okay. So that's great. We don't need to revisit this again until 2026. So it's certainly a load off everybody's shoulders. So again, I want to reemphasize what you said, Tony, and thank the police union and thank you and the chief for getting this done, and also Allison, because I know firsthand how difficult it can be to, because once you change one number in a salary, and it affects all the other conditions in the contract, it becomes very difficult. And I'm sure Allison was up many nights trying to get all the numbers correct. And so thank you, Gene. Josh, any comments?
Josh?
No, just echoing what you and Tony just said. It's glad we were able to compensate our officers fairly and still maintain within our town budget. So well done.
And I'll follow up with that as saying ditto to all of that. But I did find as I was reading through it, we refer in 3 different sections as an officer, a member, and an employee as a description of the individuals. Does that impact the contract at all?
I'd have to look at specifically what you're looking at, but this MOA has gone through probably 5 review cycles of our labor council and 5 on their side as well. So I'm sure it's covered.
It's just the way it went. It went officer, 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 and then it shifted to member, and then it finished up with employee. So it just seemed.
It might just be the MOA points to changes in particular sections. That's what you're looking at. So that section, full contract, might just use different terminology.
That's all I had.
Okay, thanks.
Again, well-deserved contract.
Just one more thing, Mr. Chairman. I just want again reiterate that our support for our police department, and that policing has changed a lot, and the police reform that passed a few years ago, and updated policies and training requirements, and now all of our officers have body cameras on them as well, and there's a lot of changes that have come in the last couple of years, and our officers have taken that in stride and done a phenomenal job adjusting to those things. So I just I just wanted to commend him on that too.
Good point, Tony. Likewise. Any further discussion on this motion? Seeing, hearing none, all in favor?
Gene Canty, aye.
Josh Antrim, aye.
Mark Cullen and I. Okay, our next subject is to open the annual town meeting warrant. Do I have a motion?
We can actually skip this one because we have no changes for the current warrant. But we do have the next one we're going to do, the omnibus budget changes.
Good. Do I have a motion to approve the Board of Selectmen's omnibus budget motion?
I move the Board of Selectmen vote to approve the omnibus budget as presented and send it to the Advisory and Finance Committee for their review.
And I'll second it.
Motion's been made and seconded. Tony?
So the changes in the two small changes that we made were related to our health insurance budget. We were made aware of a couple changes, another expected retirement, and another change of health insurance class coming up in the next fiscal year for another employee at the school. So we had to make some changes in this budget for what we need to fund in case that employee retires and a new employee is hired and takes advantage of a family rate insurance plan. We have to prepare for that and fund for that. Obviously, it's too soon to know, so we have to cover ourselves in case that is an expense that's needed in the future fiscal year. That's
Tony,
one.
do you happen to have a spreadsheet or something that you could share on the screen showing these changes, or
I'm
putting you on the spot here, but
yeah, just talk amongst yourselves for a moment.
how about those Red Sox?
Yikes.
How about that Celtics game last night? Jesus.
I actually watched that. I haven't watched the game in a long time.
My
I picked the
God.
wrong one to watch.
Yeah.
Which one are you talking about? The 60-point spread?
No, they
Last night.
have 22-point lead in the fourth quarter,
Oh,
and
that, yeah.
somehow
How
managed to lose.
How does that happen? You beat one team by 60 points one night and a good team, Steve Curry, and then you wind up dropping a game you shouldn't have lost.
Yeah, crazy. That's all the
I
small
got
talk I have.
That's it. I got it. All right. Can you see this spreadsheet?
Yeah.
So health insurance, as I've mentioned, so we have one employee who is going to be jumping onto the health insurance for a single person plan. And then we're planning for a potential retirement and that being replaced with someone on a family insurance plan. So just those small two changes equates to $46,395. Now it's possible that we won't need to spend all of that, depending on the replacement should the other position retire and be replaced with someone that doesn't need health insurance or only needs a single plan. It would be cheaper. And the other small change here is on the Memorial Day committee. We had the wrong number in here. The Memorial Day committee was supposed to be 10,000. Original budget in your originally approved amount was I'm sorry, I just misspoke. 8,000, and now this new one will be 9,000. So it's $1,000 more in this budget.
Because of the sound system used at the wharf primarily.
Both the sound system at the wharf and at the cemetery.
Mhm.
And it was just an oversight that we hadn't included that additional cost in the original budget that you had approved on February 21st.
All right,
That's it.
yeah,
Thank you.
note that.
Any further questions? Okay, seeing, hearing none, have a vote to approve.
Gene Canty, aye.
Let's see, Josh Antrim.
Mark Cullen, aye. All right, thanks, Tony. Coast Guard housing update?
Okay, so we met on Monday in executive session to talk about the valuation of property, specifically Coast Guard housing property. Our appraiser has completed his appraisals of a property on Castle Road, one property on Gardner Road, and one property on Goddard Drive. And so that meeting was really to talk about the methodology that he used, and to discuss, the valuation that he came up with. We're not sharing the information or the background to that at this point because we are going to be going through a real estate proposal RFP process, and we want to make sure we don't want to expose that information to somehow interfere with the procurement process related to that. We also, hold on, I'm just pulling up some more info here. We talked a little bit about that real estate marketing proposal RFP as well with our counsel from KP Law. And we received a draft of the procurement documents. We discussed some of the elements in there and some of the changes that we want to make to that. Again, I don't want to get too far into the details on that because it is a public process. And so the details of that will be released when the RFP goes public. But essentially, the idea is that we'll be requesting marketing proposals from real estate firms to join the town of Nahant in the sale process of the Coast Guard housing properties. Once we have a real estate firm hired and going to, selected to participate in this process, we're going to talk with them about the process by which we're going to put up the properties for sale and start working on developing that RFP, which we've talked about a few times in previous Board of Selectmen meetings, how that's going to work or how we think it's going to work. Again, a lot of those details will be worked out once we have a real estate company on board. I'm happy to answer any questions, or if you want me to, I don't know if you guys want me to get into more details about how those two different procurement processes are gonna work. But I'm happy to do that.
Tony, just
I'm sorry, Jim, go ahead.
one question that's often asked is there any, and I should have asked this on Monday, is there any timetable for all this?
Well, we've said that our timetable has been that we want to hit the spring market. So there is a process that we have to go through related to the first RFP, which will take, probably 3 weeks. And then once we have a real estate broker on board, we'll start working on developing, the procurement for the sale of the property. That will have a required by law, a required notice time frame. So, we've been hoping, our target has been April, May. I think we could still accomplish that.
Okay, thanks.
Josh?
I'm gonna take a shot at recapping Tony's summary. So we met with we felt it was important to have an independent real estate appraisal of the properties. We hired this firm, First Fidelity, I guess it was, and met with their representative Monday. He gave us his assessment of the value of those lots. I think it was pretty consistent with what we sort of had in mind. The request for proposal goes out to multiple real estate companies soon. And there'll be a number of criteria that the real estate companies must meet, but on which they will be judged. And the number one is commission. That will be the most important criteria because that is what affects the cost to the town and thus the taxpayers. So that will be the top highest weighted criteria is making sure we maximize the benefit to the taxpayers. And then we'll select that real estate agent, the winning bid, based on that criteria and a few others, and then begin the process of with that real estate company of selling the properties. And there are certain requirements imposed, as Tony alluded to, with disposal of not disposal, but Chapter 30 requirements that we have to meet, posting of the sale and that kind of thing involved as well. So that's my stab at recapping what you said, Tony, in case I hit any gaps in your summary.
That's a great recap.
Good job, Josh.
Well done, Josh.
Okay, any further discussion on this? Oh, there's not a motion actually, it's just an update. Excuse me. Okay, Tony, looks like we're on schedule. Really aggressive, but I think it's all possible. And I do think that this spring is going to be a pretty hot housing market, and I look forward to seeing what our brokers come up with.
Yeah. One more question before we leave the topic, because I did have to leave the meeting a few minutes early on Monday. Do we have when do we think we'll get that RFP out to the real estate companies? Do we have a date, approximate date?
We don't have a date yet. We have some homework to do or our attorneys have some homework to do based on our discussion that night or that day. I mean, so I owe a follow-up to Sharon to find out, what her estimated time frame is to get that back to us. But it wasn't a lot of homework, so hopefully, hopefully we can turn that around pretty quickly.
Tony, do we want to do an update on the 3 holdouts?
Dan, that's Dan's category.
It is. We had a trial in Alessi already, late January, with a post-trial hearing on March 21st. And Mark Colden will be there to testify. Tony will be there to testify. And some folks from Hall Management Company will be there to testify. Our trial for Carmody, we agreed to move that to April 3rd. I know there was some fear that it might be moved to somewhere in the summer, but that did not come to fruition. So we have an April 3rd tight trial date. And the only reason why we agreed to move that was to try to resolve the issues pursuant to an agreement with Ms. Carmody. So we're still going through that, and we have that on for the executive session. We just today got a trial date for Green and Avery on Castle Road, and that is for April 24th. And that's where we are in terms of trial dates.
Great, thank you, Dan.
Dan, could you just remind us what the outcome of the Alessi trial was?
The Alessi trial was very, very good for us. The jury, and this is public information, so I'm not speaking out of turn. The jury found that she was not disabled. The jury found that the original request for accommodation she made in her answer was not reasonable. And the jury found the town should should gain possession of the property. In terms of what did not go in our favor, and this is because we had facts we inherited from years ago that we had no chance of changing. The jury found that there was a habitability claim issue because her furnace had failed for a few days and she had some issues with her stove a few years ago. And also there were some issues regarding utilities. So those did not go in the town's favor, but at the end of the day, it was a victory for the town. But we're not done yet. Like I mentioned earlier, we have a post-trial hearing on March 21st, and the purpose of that hearing is to determine whether the town is subject to Chapter 93A, which is what's referred to colloquially as the Consumer Protection Statute. We'll be arguing that we have sovereign immunity, it doesn't apply to us, and a few other arguments, but that's what's going to happen on the 21st before the Carmody and Green Avery trial.
Okay, thank you, Dan. All right, any
Sure.
further questions on the CoStar housing?
No.
Okay, great. Josh, any update on preserving East Point?
No, not really. We're just waiting for some decision from the judge. And it could take up to 120 days from whenever the hearing was in February, I guess. No, late January.
Okay, thank you. Town administrators report.
Thank you. We held a bid opening. Let's see, we held a bid, was it on Thursday last week, I think?
Thursday or Friday, I think.
Thursday or Friday last week. This is for the Emerald Road water main work, Fox Hill Road water main work. Those two portions of this project are funded through MWRA borrowing. And then also we had stormwater work for the lowlands area on Fox Hill Road, Castle Road, and Ward Road. Those projects are funded with local borrowing authority previously approved by town meeting. And our total bid came in, Grenice is our winning bidder. It came in under budget. As far as those two different funding sources, we have plenty of funding to award the water main project. As for the storm drain project, we have it was broken out into two separate a base bid and a alternate bid. Our base bid came in at $390,134.44, which we have the funding for. The alternate bid came in for $154,327.35. The two combined are a little bit higher than our current budget. However, as you know, we're going to town meeting for a stormwater borrowing that is going to allow for us to continue stormwater work town-wide. So should we have approval at town meeting for that funding, we'll be able to award the drain alternate bid and do further drain work in other areas of town that's necessary. We're currently exploring the study and engineering phases of projects related to storm drain improvements on White Way and Willow Road. There are other areas in town that need to be looked at, like Bass Point and on the other side of Willow Road by Summer Street and Furbush Road and low-lying areas like that. So very pleased with the bids that we received. Very pleased that Grenice, someone who's very familiar with our system and has done a lot of work in Nahant, is the winning bidder. And they are eager to get started. They're already started doing dig safes, and likely going to be starting to do work in the upcoming weeks. So next step is to get notice out. Likely going to host a neighborhood meeting for the Emerald Road area and for the Lowlands area. Emerald Road has been it's been a struggle down there with all the work that's been going on between National Grid, our sewer line improvements, and now water work coming. And I want to try and reach out to the neighborhood down there, give them some information about what's next, and remind them, of the ultimate goal of repairing that street from the surface at the surface level. So that's definitely important that we put that effort in. And then on the Lowlands neighborhood side, we've had a pretty good ongoing community engagement related to all the stormwater projects there. So it would just be revisiting them, giving them an update as to where we are.
Thank you, Tony. I'm so glad that we're getting to the point where we actually getting shovels in the ground here finally. So that's great news, and it's also great news that the contractor is Grenice and Sons for a couple of reasons. One, they're great contractors. They've been involved with the town in many projects for many years. They work well with our Department of Public Works, and they know our infrastructure pretty well. So we're lucky to have them on board with us as a team. So I'm glad we get the shovels in the ground soon, and hopefully we can get these projects done soon. Josh, Gene, any comments?
No, none here.
Yeah, I guess I would just echo your comments, Mark. I mean,
Right.
for me personally, it's just a huge relief to see shovels go in the ground in the Lowlands area in particular for these drainage improvements and repairs. I know all three of us and Tony, it's been a high priority for us for a while now. It's taken, longer than any of us wished, but I'm so happy that it's finally gonna get started. Yeah, just really pleased about that. And I agree with you about Grenice, and they're here all the time, and so I'm happy that worked out as well. Yeah. It's also Tony can check that one off on his 2023 goals list.
Yeah. I do want to say, Tony, you've done a really terrific job on this project. Not just in terms of getting coordinating all the engineering and design work done and the bidding and contracting, but also working with the neighborhood and all the in the public, and making sure they're up to speed in what is going on and taking their input into consideration. It's not always it's always a number of things that you need to do to put a project together. It just doesn't happen, and it requires a lot of coordination between design, engineering, construction, public interest, financial interest, and it takes a lot, and you've done a great job on it, so thank you.
Hey, if I could just add to it quickly, for anybody that's concerned, Grenice has been a good partner to the town. I don't know an awful lot about engineering or the construction side of the business, but they're there for the big projects and they're there for the small projects. The thing I notice is when something happens that requires a little bit more than town involvement, they're there. They're there that day or the day after. So if you could pass that along.
I'll have to give you a quick example of their service to the town. And by the way, this is low bid, so I mean they had to submit a little bid in order to qualify for this. But I remember back in 1996 when the town had, I think, about 106 inches of snow one year. It was a terrible year, and we were in the end of March, the middle of March, and in the middle of a snowstorm, plowing, and I was in one of the trucks, and we drove by the Coast Guard station, and it was just full of water everywhere. Turns out there was a water main break after the DPW has been working for probably 36 hours straight, plowing snow. And the last thing we need is a major water break on the Nahant Road. And no sooner did I look up, but I saw Greenish trucks coming down across the causeway. I asked them how they knew about it. They said, we scanned the radios. And they just deployed themselves without even us calling them. So that's the type of contractor they are. They're reliable, they're good, they know our infrastructure, and I'm sure they'll do a great job.
Yeah, and in this case, they came in about $200,000 under estimated budget. So it's a great price on top of it all.
I'm sure they're kicking themselves on that. All right. Okay, great. Thanks, Tony. Is that it with the administrator's report?
That's it.
Okay, citizens forum? Do you have anybody out there, Tony?
Yes,
So Jeff Lewis?
I think Jeff Lewis. Jeff, I'm asking you to unmute. If you could just state your name and address and.
Hey, Jeff Lewis, 6 Ellsworth Road, Nahant. It's a little confusion. If you could clear it up for me, Tony. I understand the funding on water projects and I understand it on sewer projects. But you mentioned 2 or 3 stormwater projects. Is it the same funding source or is that general revenue?
Same funding source.
So it goes through the water and sewer department?
No, it was an article authorizing borrowing for that particular capital project.
So not part of the debt shift then?
No.
Okay, thank you. That's it.
You're welcome.
Good question, Jeff. Any other questions?
George Mahoven?
George?
Right.
Yes, George Mahoven, 64 Lennox Road, Nahant, Mass. Just a question on the right of way up at the Little Nahant / Wilson Road where they meet. Any news and what are we doing? Again, an update, I guess.
Thank you, John.
Thank
Tony,
you.
Dan?
Dan, you're
Silent.
muted.
No, nothing new to report on that topic.
Okay, what's the next step in that, Dan, if you could? What do we need to do to keep this ball moving?
Well, Tony and I talked about this, and we're trying to get some creative solutions because we're in a bit of a legal jam, to be quite frank. And we thought about bringing the town together with the 2 abutters to talk about an amicable resolution as opposed to hashing this out in court, which is where this might be going, because this is different than the other right-of-ways because of the wording of the deeds that led to where we are today. So that's sort of where we are at the moment. To try to, like I said, come up with some sort of resolution. I think if we're facing the right of way, the neighbor to the right, I think is pretty amicable. The neighbor to the left is less amicable. So that's what we're faced with.
So are we talking about the entire? It was originally what we thought a 10-foot right of way, correct? But
right.
Is the whole 10-foot subject to this, or is it just 5
Well,
feet?
that's a great question, Mark. When I was hashing this out with the attorney for the property to the left, the original thought was, okay, well, we certainly have a right. Well, we certainly have a claim to the 5 feet to the right side. But then in talking to this fellow, and he's Jimmy Moore is his name, over in the Edison building in Lynn. He seems to think that his client has a right to all 10 feet. So I don't know where he gets that. I can see his argument for 5 feet, but for the whole 10 feet, we don't see that happening. And there is an issue regarding ownership generally, because at the end of the day, this was originally part of two families that own basically all of Little Nahant. And it's kind of unclear where the deeds have gone since then. So there's a bit of that issue as well. And that's where my predecessor sort of left off in terms of deed and title review moving forward. So we're faced with a few challenges here. It's not as easy as we had hoped, to be honest, but
So
there's a lot of roadblocks.
is this deed that is in dispute registered in land court?
Yes, this is in land court, which makes it a bit easier in some instances because everything is recorded and it's more verified, because that's what land court does in registered land. It's a bit harder because it makes prescriptive easements a bit harder to prove in that case, but we're trying to work our way through it. It's not an easy process. It's not at all an easy process.
But it's not an issue of prescriptive easement on the abutters side, because they can't get a prescriptive easement if it is public property, correct?
Well, that's true, but if we're gonna get into the weeds here, it's not clear that it belongs to the town. The original division of the property back in 1919, 1918 reserved the rights of those right-of-ways to that particular owner, which was a trust. I forget the name of the trust at the moment. And when in talking to Sheila and talking to Tony and talking to our title researcher, we didn't see anywhere where that original owner transferred the ownership of those rights of ways to the town, or in some respects, where did the town take that right of way? We didn't see any of that. So it might be an issue of, unless we can reach some sort of amicable resolution, there might be an issue of trying to reach out to these surviving heirs of the trust that originally divided this property. There are companies that do that. We have a case in South Boston that is all that's what we hired them to do. So it might be.
We also have some evidence of the stairway and the right of way from the past. You have some pictures, things like that, but the stairways, I don't know how long they were gone for before I got involved in the stuff, and that might be an issue.
Let me just throw this out, Tony and Dan. I think it's important to get this on the front burner. However it turns out, primarily because I know it's important that one of the issues that we're trying to deal with is our public ways throughout town, and I think it's important that we set an example here of how important these public ways are to the town, and that we're not going to take them lightly. We'll enforce them where we can. So I just don't want to set a precedent in any way that we're just sort of, and I don't think we are. I'm not saying we are, putting this under the rug, but I think we need to, in my opinion, be pretty aggressive on this, because it could, as I said, set a precedent for other issues in years to come. So that's just my feeling about it.
I agree with you. Our creative approach isn't non-aggressive. We just are trying to see if we can accomplish it without going through the timely process of land court and expensive process of going through that. If we can get it done with an agreement of some sort amongst the town and the two abutters, that could be much faster process for us.
Understood. Josh or Gene?
No, nothing on that. I mean, as you said, Mark, it's been a long, drawn-out process. Not drawn out, but a long process. And getting it done will certainly work for everybody.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking about one right away in this instance, but it encroachment on these right of ways has been going on for years, and it slowly erodes the public's rights, really. So when you take things that don't belong to you, or you take over things that don't belong to you, you know, the public suffers. And yeah, I agree. We need to you know, aggressively enforce these rights of ways in general. It's not to be mean to private property owners, it's to be properly respectful of the public.
Okay, that's well said, Josh. Any further discussion on this issue?
Yeah, could I say something?
Go ahead, Josh. I mean, Judge.
It's okay. I believe, isn't there a drain pipe right where that right of way is that goes down to the ocean? So I mean, doesn't that give us claim to that land? And also, I really appreciate what you said, Mark. I'm 100% behind you as far as being aggressive. I've been after this right away for over 20 years now. You remember when you were the town administrator, we talked
do.
about this. And so I really would really like to see that the town be more aggressive instead of trying to figure this out and get this done so I can see it done in my lifetime, for Pete's sakes. You know, 20 years is a long time to be farting around with the right of way that, as far as I'm concerned, is our right of way up there. There were stairs up there. There's a landing up there still for the stairs. They violated the right of way by putting a driveway in there. At first, she claims that she owned 5 feet of the land. And I suggested, well, why don't we put in a 5-foot right of way then? Now, all of a sudden, we're being told that we don't own any part of that land. Doesn't make any sense to me. I thought this was all done in, excuse me, 20 years ago when we did walked all the right of ways. And then we didn't have to because we hired a lawyer to find out which ones were the right of ways and legally the right of ways. And we had a map all drawn out, and that was one of the legal rights of ways. So I don't understand how this has all changed and why it's taking so long. And I would really appreciate it if you do make it one of the, I wouldn't say top priorities in the heart, but you know, Josh mentioned that it's only one right of way, but in Little Nahant, that's the only real viable right of way we have over here. You know, we don't have much room as it is over here with houses on top of houses. We don't get to see the ocean that much, even driving down the street now, because everybody's putting up bushes and so on and so forth. This one right of way means an awful lot to the people of Little Nahant. So with that, I just want to reiterate, I would really appreciate it if we do go a little more forceful. But just be more forceful, I guess is the word. Is not the word I'm looking for, but that'll do. Thank you.
Thank you, Josh. Okay.
I'm just, you know, to that point, we have been, you know, we've reopened and reclaimed the right of way on Bass Point Road. Working collectively with Joe Moshe as he was rebuilding that property, and that was a much faster. What's that?
I was on Wilson Road, and that's wide open.
On Wilson Road. Did I say Bass Point Road?
Yeah.
Yes, you did. Yeah.
Wilson Road. I'm sorry, Wilson Road. So you know that the quickness of that process shows, you know, when you work with the property owner, how that can be effective in ways. But we have to, you know, George, I understand the frustration. You understand we have to make sure that the town has legal right to traverse on top of that property before we invite residents to do so. So unfortunately, we just gotta go through the legal process, you know, before we take the next step.
I
We'll
understand.
keep going.
I understand that, but it just seems like this process is taking an exceptionally long amount of time where it shouldn't be this long amount of time. I just find it very difficult to swallow that it's taken over 20 years to find a viable solution to this one right away that I believe is very important. It's one of the only places you can go fishing off the rock.
If it was, George, to put it simply, if it was clearly, legally the town's, it wouldn't take 20 years. That's the issue. So we have to make sure we figure that out so we can take the next step.
No, I understand that, but I just hope that you, like Mark said, make it a priority.
Okay.
All right.
thank you.
And George, thank you for, bringing this up. I know, you have other things to talk about, I do, but I mean, I do appreciate you. And like you said, we've been on this, for over 20 years. I think when we did the right-of-way study in Little Nahant was 2007, 2008. I don't know what year it was, but,
Yeah, it's over 20 years, but,
Yeah. You've been a strong advocate, for the town and, particularly for your neighborhood in Little Nahant on these rights of ways for all those years, so I appreciate it.
well, I appreciate your work too and everybody else's work. Thank you very much.
Okay, anything else in citizen forum? Okay, hearing none, we're going to adjourn to executive session. Do I have a motion?
Yeah, hey, before we do, Tony, I don't know if you want to or not, but given that we've got an issue down on Short Beach with the birds, do you want to speak to
I
that?
did want to
Oh,
speak
good
to that.
idea.
Thank you, Gene. I'm sorry. I did want to speak to that. Yeah, so over the last few days, we've been getting reports of deceased birds on Short Beach. That's really the only place we've seen them. We haven't seen them on Tudor Beach, or Doggy Beach. But it does sound like Long Beach is experiencing it, which is DCR property, Swampscott Beaches, and it even seems further than that. Gloucester, towns south of us, towns north of us along the East Coast. So we did go through something similar in June of 2022. It turned out to be some sort of avian flu. But we don't know if it's the same thing yet. So we spoke with, or our animal control officer spoke with Mass Wildlife, spoke with the environmental police, spoke with the state ornithologist, and they are sending someone from Seacoast Science Center to swab the deceased birds, to then run a test, try and see if they can find out what's going on. But until we get any more direction, we're asking folks, to please don't, do not touch the birds. And especially, first of all, on Short Beach and Tudor Beach, your dog should be leashed anyways. But especially given this situation, for the well-being of your pets, you want to keep them on a leash so they don't go sniffing around any dead animals, because it could be harmful. So, we put a public message out on Facebook. We did a code red call, and we put some signage out as well at the beaches.
Well, thank you, Tony. Gene, thanks for bringing that up. I did see a lot of chatter on social media regarding that today. So hopefully we find an answer to what's going on. Great. Any other comments or questions before we adjourn to executive session?
I thought I saw core. Oh, but her. Let me see here. She usually writes something in the chat. Hold on. Oh, okay. And she left the meeting. She sent in the chat, can we have an update on the Flash Road Courts project? She's referring to pickleball. During our last Board of Selectmen meeting, our DPW superintendent and our contractors went to a Concom commission meeting about the pickleball lighting project. And I believe we got a favorable vote from the Concom. We're just waiting for an order of conditions. And then, once the weather turns, I believe we're going to start the work to installing the lights there.
Okay. Gene? Mhm.
Good.
Okay. So I have a motion to adjourn and go into executive session.
I move that the Board of Selectmen vote to adjourn to executive session in accordance with Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A2, to conduct strategy sessions in preparation for contract negotiations with the town administrator if the chair declares that an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the negotiating position of the public body. Do you so declare, Mr. Chairman?
The chairman so declares.
Seconded?
Motion made and seconded. Further discussion, seeing hearing none, all in favor?
Gene Canty, aye.
Josh and from I.
Not coming right. Thanks, everybody.
Night, folks.
Right.
Hold on a
I think
second.
that motion